The Columbus City Council meeting for April 18th, 2022 will now come to order. In compliance with the Open Meeting Act, Nebraska Revised Statute 84-1407, a current copy of this act is posted in this meeting room. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Bulkley.
Here.
Augustine Schulte. Here. Barr.
Here.
Hemer. Here. Jablonski.
Here.
Kreshaw.
Here.
Lohr. Roth.
Here.
Schilling.
Here.
Mayor Bulkley, the roll has been called.
Thank you. Mrs. Council President.
Our Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve our fellow citizens. Please give us your wisdom and guidance to make the proper decisions entrusted to this governmental body. May our conduct show respect, honor, and courtesy to each other, as well as to all our citizens. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. We do have a few seats up in the front here if anybody else would like to take a seat. During tonight's meeting, if at any time during the meeting anyone would like to get up and address anything on our agenda, we'd ask that you please come forward. We're going to ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes or less and that you give your name and address. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Item 4, consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a City Council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from consent status and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item 4A, minutes of the April 4th, 2021 City Council meeting. Item 4B, renewal of solid waste hauling licenses for the following: A Sanitation Service Incorporated, Beamer Lumber LLC doing business as Discount Dumpster, Callaway Roll-Offs LLC, S2 Roll-Offs Refuse and Recycling, UNI Sanitation LLC, and Waste Connections of Nebraska Incorporated. Item 4C, resolution number R22-42, authorizing payment of various improvement projects. Item 4D, Finance Department reports, and item 4E, payroll and bills on file. Mr. Mayor and Council, is there anything you would like removed from consent status?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the consent agenda, being routine in nature, be approved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Brings us up to a special presentation. I do have a proclamation this evening that I would like to read. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lifelong consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas protective factors or conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families, and whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the meaningful connection and partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, families, and whereas our children are our most valuable asset and resource, and we shape the future of the city of Columbus, and whereas Columbus must take every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families, and whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and support the social and emotional well-being of children and families in safe, stable, and nurturing environments. Now, therefore, I, James B. Bulkley, Mayor of the City of Columbus, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month. With that, we had a group here tonight to ask for this, and I presented it to them. We thank you for all you do in this regard, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to public hearings.
Item 7A, public hearing, redevelopment plan for B&R Stores redevelopment project, redevelopment area number 1, located northwest of the intersection of 23rd Street and 33rd Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Is there anyone here to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing? Please come forward.
Hi, I'm Jordan Raybold with B&R Stores. I just want to say thank you for having me here, and thank you to the City of Columbus for supporting our store out here in the city for so long. And also a special thank you to Bonnie McPhillips of the Housing Authority for collaborating with us on this pretty complex project we got going on. Just to give everyone an idea of what the project is, it's redevelopment of the Super Saver, and then we're going to install also gas pumps outside it, as well as an addition of multifamily housing. As you're probably aware, currently the Super Saver there, we love it, but I don't think it meets the needs of the City of Columbus right now. So our plan is to do this in 2 phases. It's to build a Super Saver behind the current Super Saver, and so that the store will never be closed, and then once that is completed, build a multifamily around it. We've already notified the residents that this is the plan, and we provided them a monetary stipend to assist them with their moving. And we should have that completed around September 30th and start the demolition of the trees and preparing the site for the construction, with the plan of breaking ground and beginning the actual construction in the spring. And that's the project. And do you guys have any questions regarding it?
I know the public's looking forward to it.
Yeah, we look forward to it a lot, and you guys your city's been great to work with and collaborate with on the project, so we're very excited about it.
Good luck.
Yep, thank you, Council, appreciate it.
Anyone else to speak for this? Seeing none, anyone close the hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7A1, resolution number R22-43, approving the redevelopment plan.
Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution number R22-43 be adopted.
Motion and a second to adopt resolution R22-43. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7B, public hearing application of JLO Properties LLC to rezone a tract of land south of 32nd Street extending 49th Avenue to the south from B2 General Commercial District to R2 Two-Family Residential District and amend the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Anyone here to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7B1, ordinance number 22-08, approving the rezoning.
Mr. Mayor, move the rules be suspended and ordinance number 22-08 be read by number only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 22-08. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7C, public hearing, application of Ferguson Properties Incorporated for final plat and development agreement of Centennial Park 8th Edition, west of 3rd Avenue and 2nd Street. The Planning Commission.
We need
Oh.
to
Yep, sorry,
adopt
yep.
the ordinance.
I'm
yet.
sorry, guys. I jumped again there. Ordinance number 22-08.
Mr. Mayor, move for the adoption of ordinance number 22-08.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 2208. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. There you go.
Now, item 7C, public hearing, application of Ferguson Properties Incorporated for final plat and development agreement of Centennial Park 8th Edition, west of 3rd Avenue and 2nd Street. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Is there anyone here to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7C1, public hearing, determine whether Centennial Park 8th Edition should be included within the corporate city limits. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Public hearing, anyone here to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7C2, resolution number R22-44, approving the final plat and development agreement and bringing said addition into the corporate city limits.
Mr. Mayor, move resolution number R22-44 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution R22-44. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7D, public hearing, application of Ferguson Properties Incorporated for final plat and development agreement of Park Place 10th Edition, 33rd Street, east of 48th Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Anyone here to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing?
Mayor, I move for to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close. Any discussion? I would say if maybe the public was thinking or wondering, we're having all these motions and nobody's getting up and talking, part of the reason I would want to tell you is all this information was fully vetted at last week's planning and zoning meeting. So unless council or a person in the audience would have a question, we've had all this information in front of us to be able to approve. So it's actually basically a formality to go through without anybody's, if there are no questions or concerns. All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7D1, public hearing, determine whether Park Place 10th Edition should be incorporated within the corporate city limits. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Anyone here to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7D2, resolution number R22-45, approving the final plat development agreement and bringing said addition into the corporate city limits.
Mr. Mayor, I move resolution number R22-45 be adopted.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R22-45. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Brings us up to reports of council committees.
Item 10A, Public Property Safety and Works Committee of April 11th, 2022. Item 10A1, termination of Highways 3064 Connector Interlocal Agreement and disband of 3064 Corridor Steering Committee. The 3064 Corridor Steering Committee recommends the committee be disbanded and no further public funds be spent on this project at this time.
So,
Mr. Mayor, I move that this committee report be placed on file.
do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to place this committee report on file. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Just a comment. I'm going to vote for the report, but I have further discussion when it comes up as an agenda item. I don't want to show my yay vote for the report as an indication of how I'll vote on the agenda item.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I hate to see the disbandment of this steering committee on this project. I realize it's at a dead end, but it should have been tabled and brought up at a later date. And it sounds like, I mean, that's what will happen to
It appears that, I mean, that will be an option that can be done.
later on.
This is a recommendation to follow up on what the committee itself recommended they wanted done. So
Right.
it's being presented in that manner. Any other discussion?
Okay, I want an explanation of voting. If you vote yes, what?
Just
We're
approving
just
the report.
adopting the report.
You're adopting the report. It comes back later on in the meeting. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Brings us up to new business.
Item 13A, facilities and programming changes for the Aquatic Center in Gerard Park. The Park Board recommends to accept option 2 with the stipulation that private organizations enter into an agreement for use of the Aquatic Center registration. The Aquatic Center be closed June 1st to August 1st and fees be increased as presented in option 3. Doug Moore will give a update on this for us.
Mr. Moore.
Doug Moore, Public Property Director, 2122 14th Street. As Tara said, the recommendation from the Park Board, which is to part of option 2 and part of option 3, the staff also recommends addendum to that, to where we would be open evenings 4 to 7, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays for open swim and programming, along with Saturday hours from noon until 4 for open swim. We also would provide programming and staff training to other hours if possible. So that's the recommendation from the Park Board and staff. As a public property director for the City of Columbus, I oversee 9 departments. So I check into all my departments all the time, figuring out what we need to do, what things to be the most safest bet for the city, to best utilize our facilities. They are largely funded by property taxes, sales taxes, federal and state taxes, grants, and fees. So it is my responsibility to make sure to maximize the benefits that the public property amenities provide with limited taxpayer resources that are available. The Aquatic Center was opened in 1984. During that time, many discussions and charges have been made to try to increase usage and revenue at the Aquatic Center. They include, but not limited to decreased fees, increased programming, adjusted hours, combined memberships with the plunge, to name a few. The Aquatic Center has an average between 600 and 800 members over the last 10 years, with numbers increasing over the last few years with the implementation of the group memberships. Revenues have decreased slightly over that last 10 years with a high of 114,270 in 2014 and 15. At the March Park Board meeting, staff recommended an option to the Park Board that would have eliminated afternoon, evening, and weekend hours, along with closing the Aquatic Center during the summer months when the Pawnee Plunge is open. Peak hours for uses at the Aquatic Center are during the mornings, 8 until 1. After much discussion, including some patrons saying they would pay higher fees, the board requested more information from staff and tabled the discussion until the April meeting. And option 3 was presented at the April Park Board meeting that would have added evening hours and Saturday hours and would have increased fees. After much discussion between board members, the Park Board recommended option 2, with the fees increased with option 3, that private organizations that use the Aquatic Center must enter into an agreement with the city. Staff amended the agreement to add evening hours, 4 to 7 on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, along with Saturday afternoon, noon to 4. The plunge would be available during the summer for Aquatic Center patrons in the mornings from 8 until 11 and evenings from 7 until 8. Some of the savings from the proposal would pay for increased wages for seasonal and summer staff, including Aquatic Center and Pawnee Plunge, along with seasonal staffs and other departments that we are paying a competitive wage. During my years as the public property director, I have looked and proposed changes in a lot of departments. I know a lot of people think that we're kind of singling out the aquatics department. We have had a lot of departments that we have looked at over the years. To name a few that I've discussed, we have eliminated hours at the Columbus Area Transit. We used to have weekend and evening hours. We no longer do that. We moved the senior center from downtown to the community building, which is the old hospital. If you all remember, that was quite controversial when we did that. We also worked with Catholic Charities to manage the community center as a partner with the city. That worked very well for a couple years, and things kind of went south on us, but we're now taking it. But that was another thing that we looked at and proposed. We have gone through seasons at the park department where we had no seasonal staff, and tried to make it work. And currently we are working on RFPs for a possible management company to take over the golf courses. So we look at all our departments and everything, so it's not just looking at aquatics. We look at everything to try to get the biggest bang we can for our buck. So we're working through all that, so I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Well, Doug, let me just summarize quickly what you said is being presented. It would be option 2 amended. Option 2 then is open from 8 to 1 p.m.
8 to 1, and then on Mondays.
Amended then to Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, 4 to 7. Saturdays, 12 to 4.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then it will be closed June 1st to August 1st while the plunge is open with plunge hours available to aquatic patrons.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the committee's amended recommendations.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt the committee's recommendation as amended. Discussion by the council.
The only question I have, in the recommended motion, it says the Aquatic Center with rates is determined by the administration. Are those that are printed?
They're included in the memo.
But it says determined by, so
Well, and I
shouldn't
think-
it say printed?
Well, that's what the park board was, because at that time we didn't have those. We didn't have those rates. That was specific to aquatic therapy.
Yeah.
And it was a new discussion we had at that meeting. So since that time, we've done some research. John Brzezinski works as a physical therapist. He helped me come up with the fee that's included in the memo. So it could say as written,
So
but
it's different from the individual rates?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my apologies.
That was a separate
I
line.
just read it as determined.
That was a separate line item that got brought up as an activity or a
right.
use at the
Yep,
aquatic
thank you.
center that wanted to be done. Yes, Mr. Celine.
Was I gonna?
Well, you look like you're,
I guess, I would like to know, now this is being done to support the softball complex type thing. We're taking money from here so we can do that down there.
Well, it didn't start as that way. It started because of usage at the Aquatic Center was down and we were still paying quite a bit. Now, because of what has happened, that is one of the options that we're looking at, that the extra funds will be used for
Okay, now
funding of people at this.
At that time, it was indicated that we were going to use personnel. This was a big thing about the way I understand personnel from there. You have to explain to me how that was going to work, or how it's going to work. Let's put it that way.
So we will be, if this proposal goes forward, we will be hiring in Park and Rec some additional staff that will be Park and Rec coordinators. We would have a Park and Rec manager. Current staff at the Aquatic Center would be part of Park and Rec coordinators in those positions.
would it be fair to say that you'd expect some multitasking out of some
Correct.
staff?
Yep.
Thank you.
I guess I don't quite understand, okay, if you're gonna open up, the person in charge of the Aquatic Center is, what do they have, how does that work with the plunge? Are they there at the plunge too?
Correct.
Okay, so you're expecting that person to be at the Aquatic Center during the time they're open, and then they're going to be at the plunge when that's open, right?
Correct.
Okay, now how is that person gonna be working for the Aquatic, or for the ballpark?
Well, when we do have some issues where they have some free time or some things worked out, they will help us with programming. Now they,
Free time?
Well, if
Come on, now.
Is the,
yeah,
is
I mean,
the
we're going to
plunge-
multitask
Yeah,
a bunch of
multitasking
things.
is fine, but you talk about, if they're gonna do that, and one person gonna be operating the plunge and making sure everybody's there doing their thing?
No, we have
8 o'clock
other
in the
staff.
morning till 9 o'clock at night? Come on.
Yeah, Doug, is the plunge open, the plunge is open from May, whatever the magic date is, till,
Yeah, May 29th.
and I don't know if we know when we close yet because of schools and stuff. So the Aquatic Center is closed from June 1st to August 1st.
Correct.
So they're not flipping back and forth between Aquatic Center and plunge, other than maybe 1 week, trying to get things started there that first
Yeah,
week of
but-
April.
But
or
they
May.
gotta be working at the Aquatic Center, and then,
Well, and I understand that during peak season in the summer, they're going to be at the plunge and working there all the time.
yeah.
But we have peak season, and we have slow down time in January and February.
Oh, so I got it. So in other words, when they're off at, from 1 to 4, they can go do other multitasking things.
Good,
Correct.
Boy, that is gonna work.
okay.
That's, to me, that's almost ridiculous.
Any other discussion from council?
The management thing, that's working out this sort of thing, you know, it stinks. And it's not only the Aquatic Center. Let me tell you, I've been around this place long enough that I can see things, what's going on, and I've been involved with athletics for a long time, and we're hurting bad. And nobody seems to, for a while, we've been trying to say that we needed to hire more people for the Parks Department, but no, we couldn't do that. No,
I don't think
No,
there's
we're
been
hurt.
any
Yeah.
requests for staff in the parks, but
Yeah.
no, nobody's requested them. So how could we hire them? Okay?
Well, we make requests for seasonals, but we're limited to what we can do. So that's why this is a program to where we can hire more seasonal staff. Well,
so we
yep.
can get more.
I came from a town that had a park and recreation program, and, what you're trying to do is not of very good value as far as the people of this town is concerned. We have, I have talked to some of the baseball people And I discussed this with Betsy.
You didn't discuss with Betsy.
Mr. Shelley, this is an aquatics discussion. I don't think we can get too far off in the weeds.
This is part of the whole process. This is a whole package. This is what, so you'll tell me it's not gonna be, it's not.
Okay, keep on, you got the floor.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, you know,
Well, Ron, yeah, you can have your opinions, but we're moving forward, and this is what we want to try to incorporate. Yeah, we're trying something we've never had, Park and Rec. We got to figure out what we got to all do and got to all make work.
but
Now-
boy, you started way too long, or too late. I should have said that. You guys knew this was coming. The way I understand it, you guys knew it was coming.
We didn't know this was coming at Gerard Park until January.
Okay, this was not the way I was told.
Well, that's what the facts are of the story.
It's
So,
on your shoulders, you know, and I'm gonna be watching very, very closely. I'll tell you that
Okay.
right now.
yeah, we can have discussions.
And, you know, and not only that, is that I want people at Gerard Park, and I don't want Betsy out there running the drag and what have you. And I don't want the park department being, you know, some of those people, if, you know, if they don't wanna really do that kind of stuff, I don't wanna see them where they get, you know, downgraded and get written up for not doing it.
Okay, so now that you're running my department, you're going to tell me that I can't tell people what they are going to do?
No, I'm not saying that.
That's just what you said.
Well, that.
All right, we will move on. Mr. Schilling, you have the ability to be the park police, and that's, anybody can, and we get.
Thank you very much.
We get feedback from people in that regard, and that's fine. But, you know,
I don't need to be, you don't need to do that type of a call, a naming calling.
well, you
police.
want to stay on top of it, I'm telling you, you have the ability to do that.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other discussion?
So, I just want to clarify, what we have on the agenda right now is the discussion of the hours that the Aquatic Center is being open. We had option 2 from the park board that was presented, and Doug has made an amendment to option 2 by adding additional hours to the aquatic centers, along with the fees that were presented from option 3. And that's what we have on the agenda, and that's what we're voting on, correct? Correct.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. All right, any other questions for Mr. Moore while he's here? All right, do we have
Thank
any
you.
comments from the audience? We'd ask if you do come forward, as I said, we'd like you to, you need to give your name and address, and we'd like you to keep any comments to 5 minutes or less.
It will be. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Charlotte Bear, and I live at 1910 7th Street. Thank you for the proclamation tonight. The proclamation just read, and what I gathered really quickly, was that children are our greatest asset and thriving families in this community, and that we would like to provide safe facilities for them. And it seems to me that keeping the Aquatic Center with as many hours that are available to children and families is very important. And my daughter is here today, and I was not aware, she lives in Lincoln, and she said several times a year from the Chamber of Commerce, they receive a come back home postcard saying come back to Columbus and enjoy the fine facilities that we have here. You know, she was kind of looking at the hours, and it's kind of funny. My one granddaughter said, can we go to the Aquatic Center? They hadn't brought in their suits today, which they wouldn't be able to do if there was the old proposal, which now they could go a couple of days a week. But, you know, in her view, she said, we're increasing the fees, and so many families are kind of now denied that same privilege of using this fine facility. So she's kind of thinking maybe the Chamber of Commerce needs to know that they need to put in fine print that there's a lot more to the fees than there were before. And I guess my final comment, it seems to me as a city that we should look to have any facility that promotes health and well-being for our children and for families, for working people. I just was really quite amazed that this was kind of being taken away. And I do swim there in the evening a lot, and trust me, there are a lot of families, single parent families that I see use that pool coming in with 1 or 2 children. So I just think that we need to provide as many open hours, or not open hours, but many hours as we can. And one more just real simple comment. I don't know what this has to do with really anything, but I just glanced at the Quail Run membership fees today, and it's just a family membership. It's a lot more than the pool, but it's just a family membership. There isn't the limit of 6 people. So I think, that I don't know what that has to do. I hope you understand that point. But I thank you for this opportunity.
City Council Mayor. My name is Mary Pletner. I live at 4070 East 24th Avenue, Columbus. My husband and I use the Aquatic Center each day, and my husband has used it for over 36 years. But I'd like to address the group tonight as my past position. I served as a certified economic developer for 34 years, and the territory I served was Northeast Nebraska, which included the city of Columbus. And in that time, I wrote strategic plans with many of you in this room and lots of city council members. And not once in 34 years did they want to reduce hours or delete an asset in their communities. The Aquatic Center is an asset to citizens of Columbus. To attract a workforce and retain youth in the community, they wanted more assets. In fact, they wanted more amenities, not less. I am opposed to any changes in reducing hours or services at the Aquatic Center. Oftentimes, when an entity has decreased usage, it begins to fail. Also, I served in the Columbus Tourism Committee, and so I do understand what overnight stays and motels mean to this community and the importance of those. However, the Aquatic Center is a year-round facility where other activities are seasonal. With proper marketing, the Aquatic Center could increase usage. Finally, I would like to address the first park board meeting that I attended. It was implied that a small group of people don't matter. Well, I chose to retire here, and to me, a small group of people actually do matter. The person who has MS who uses the facility, the person who's on a fixed income, and the young lifeguard who said the Aquatic Center staff was actually his family. That's how much they meant to him. That matters. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Denise Myers, and I live at 3163 East 15th Avenue. And I've lived here all my life. And the Aquatic Center is something that when my grandkids come to visit, it's the first place they want to go. I don't see that cutting the hours is really going to save us a lot, as far as you're still going to have to use chemicals in the pools. The lights are going to be on for a majority of the time. You're going to save some on the payroll. But why not have the swim lessons go to the Aquatic Center versus the Pawnee plunge in the summer, because it's kind of cold in the mornings. I know when I took my lessons in the morning, it was darn cold sitting out there waiting for your turn. Also, if we close down and shorten those hours, our swim team's going to suffer, because during the off season, they're not going to be able to get to the pool as easily if it's only open 3 nights a week. Opening when it's cold in the summer, when the Pawnee plunge isn't open because it hasn't gotten to that temperature, if it was known that you could go to the Aquatic Center instead, you would increase your hours for your staff. They'd get more pay. You'd be using both facilities. You'd have somewhere to swim year round. Weekends, that's when families are together. That's when you can do things more often. They're on sports and stuff in the evenings. They don't have that much time. So often our lifeguards are also our students, and it gives them the opportunity for a job in the evenings. And I know I heard somebody say at one point that, well, the Y is open all the time. Well, I'm sorry, I can't afford $645 for the year versus $150. That's just beyond that. And they really don't have a great swim area for younger kids at the Y. They have that horseshoe that's only about maybe 2-3 feet, if that. And then they want the kids to be able to swim the length of the pool unassisted. So I really feel like the Aquatic Center should stay open the way it is. And we're the city of power and progress. We're going backwards if we're closing things down. Thank you.
Just a question, Mrs. Meyer. How would you handle if we went with what you said and then one day you came to the door and the note on the door said, you can't swim because we don't have enough people to run the facility. How would you handle that?
Right now, people are kind of understanding that. I mean, I went to a Dairy Queen the other day in Omaha, and they had a sign on their window, and they said, staffing shortages are worldwide right now. Please be nice to the employees that showed up to work. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Everybody's shorthanded. I've gone to Dairy Queen, and they had to close their dining room. I've been to McDonald's. They've had to close there some days. Burger King has done it. There's been several places, and sometimes that's just it.
But the day you have your grandkids with you, how are you going
The
to
day I have my grandkids, we'd find something else to do. You know, maybe go to the park or something if the weather's good.
That's our
But
dilemma, staffing these things and the perfect solution.
but
is
don't you
not out
feel
there.
like it might be easier to staff if they were hired for the Pawnee Plunge, say as a lifeguard, and they didn't have to worry about, I'm not working today because it's going to be too cold. Instead, I'm going to go work at the Aquatic Center. So they're always going to get their hours because there's always going to be a pool open.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alan Brown. I live at 1882 West Cali Colombo Street here in Columbus. And like Rocky, I've been a member at the Aquatic Center since it opened in '84. I've sent all of you an email addressing my concern about the shortened hours, and I see now they're being amended. I just want to reiterate that 60% of the members today are age 62 and under. And those individuals are either working or they're youth, so they can't swim the morning hours. And they may have difficulty swimming in the hours that you are now, going to, the evening hours and only one day on Saturday. So in your discussions and in your vote, please keep in mind, shortening the hours, you're going to lose some members. And I know you can't keep them all probably, but you are going to lose some. The more you shorten the hours, the more you're going to lose. Thank you.
Hi, I'm D'Artagnan Seaman. I'm from 82478 505 Avenue, Spalding. I said this at the last meeting that I went to, but I had 2 friends that died of drowning at a lake, and I had one cousin that died too. And that is partially the reason why I became a lifeguard. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be there if someone needed me. And so I applied at the Aquatic Center. And at first I wasn't sure because I was super scared. But then as soon as I walked into the building, it was like that. I just knew I'd be at home here. Everybody there was great. All the patrons were great. They were like my family. And for me, I live an hour and a half away, and I still come to work every day that I can because I love this pool. And for the most part, I only work weekends because of how far away I live. But whenever I can, sometimes I even get off school early just to come down here because I love the people here and I love this pool. And for me, the people is what makes it the best. This is the best job I've ever worked in my life. Please don't take this away from me.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Logan Erickson, 4008 27th Street, Columbus, Nebraska. I've only been on staff for only a year, and I've made some of the brightest, clever, and even sometimes dumb friends. One's over there. But even going to work and seeing my my coworkers is just a thrill to have. Just as Dart said, he's not just staying at the Aquatic Center for the staff. He's staying there for the patrons, for the joy it gives him, even though he lives out of town. I live in town, and I don't know that whole drive, and I mean, gas must be crazy for him. But it's crazy. At the first meeting of Parks and Board, I heard stories of how these older people were coming up and telling their life story. They can walk because of the water therapy we give them at the Aquatic Center. I didn't see that until that meeting, and it thrills to see that I'm making a difference in people's lives. And all I have to do is be there for them. It's amazing. In the summer, changing the location to this hot area, for these older people, they can't make it out there. And if they do, they get sunburned so easily. Why would we do that to our patrons? Why would we put them in the risk of getting harmed when we can have this facility open? Either way, this facility will be using money because, it's running. It will always be running. And for all the staff and all of my the coworkers that I work with, my bosses, and all of the patrons would love for all of us to be there. And just for a number, how many people are here for the Aquatic Center? Raise your hand. I believe these numbers should show a difference. Please consider not changing anything. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else to add that would be different than what we've heard?
Good evening. My name is Andrea Hessel. I live at 4517 25th Street here in Columbus. I'm employed by Columbus Physical Therapy PC, 3211 25th Street here in Columbus as well. I missed this part when I first read through the $75 per 15 minutes. That is more than what we charge in-house for therapy in our clinic. That is more than we charge. That is a lot more than what we get reimbursed by insurance companies. And I would like to ask how John Brzezinski came up with those numbers, especially with him working at Premier, which is a direct competitor of Columbus Physical Therapy.
That's what he said. It's about double that what they charge per 15 minutes for aquatic therapy.
Well, he is through the Columbus Community Hospital. We're a private.
Right, but an insurance charge, isn't that different from one to another? You're saying it's
insurance is reimbursed significantly different depending on what insurance it is. What Medicare pays, as to what Aetna pays, as to what Cigna pays, as to what all these others pay, is very different. Each one is different.
That's not the conversation he had with me, but we can talk about
Yeah,
that. It
would-
can be adjusted. I mean, that's certainly not a deal breaker, and we can't. Staff isn't able to give me any kind of information about how much that really happens anyway, so it's not even included in revenue estimates.
Sure.
So,
but it is listed on there.
It came up during the meeting as an area of use that we weren't aware of.
Right.
And
We were never reached out to as far as how often we have used it. And if you were to ask, I could
And so, like
give you
Tara
those
said-
I
numbers.
did ask staff to do that, and they said they didn't know how many times it was, and
Nobody
or who
reached
it
out
was.
to
We will.
our location,
We will.
so.
No, they should have, yeah.
And like Tara said, that's not a deal changer. We can adjust and work on that. John Brzezinski is on the park board, so he offered to give some input. That's where it came from at this point in time.
Right, and I understand that. I just wanted to point out that getting a variety of input from the community, different physical therapy clinics, because there are other therapy clinics as well too. There's dynamic physical therapy as well. They're a private practice, but I also know Wiggles and Giggles is owned by the hospital along with Premier, and so is their wellness center. So I would just ask that you guys get a variety of different before confirming that $75 per 15 minutes, because
Well noted.
$300 for a 45-minute session is a bit much.
Well noted.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Barbara Masolko, 51234 County Line Road, Newman Grove, Nebraska. I am here tonight not just on behalf of myself, but I have a petition signed by 100 Aquatic Center users asking for some very moderate changes to the proposal that Mr. Moore has put forward, and I would ask you to consider them seriously and not just ignore what can be gained from them. I'm going to start off by saying I think there's different ways you can measure value. You can measure value to a community in sheer dollar numbers per number of members, per number of uses. Is it more valuable for a member to use an aquatic center 5 times a week as someone to use a golf course once a week? You can measure it in terms of unique users. How many people use the aquatic center who use no other city recreational facilities? And for them, all of their tax dollars, whether it's sales tax or property tax, they see the value in the aquatic center. Or can you measure it in the thing that the young man talked about that you can't put a price on? Can you measure it in the terms of kids who get swim lessons through aquatic centers who would not get them anywhere else in this city and who don't drown in a city that lies directly on a river? When you think of value and you just look at a number, you are missing a picture. The budget that they are proposing for you today represents a 70% decrease in city support for the aquatic center. When has this council supported a 70% cut overnight? That's what you're taking it down to, from $460,000 to $129,000 in support. And so when I ask you to add back a moderate increase that will make real differences in terms of people's actual ability to use it, please consider that's what you're being asked to do. When you've been talked to about this issue, you've undoubtedly been told there are 600 and some aquatic center members, 638, that's a low number. But I'm going to tell you that's part of the picture, because no one stopped and talked about the number of people who are what we would call day admissions. Grandkids who come once or twice a month and who go to the aquatic center. Families who don't use the aquatic center often enough to merit having a membership, but who use it for recreational purposes. November, 335, November 2021. December, 328. January, 974. February, 437. And last month, when not everyone paid because they did offer a free swim lesson session, 710 day members who came in to use the aquatic center. So please don't say it's 2% of the city. It's misrepresentative of the numbers. We can make numbers say what we want them to, but that's not the true value to this city. You're going to have more accurate data soon, and that's because for the first time in the year that I've been at the Aquatic Center, there's suddenly a scanner back at the front desk. So in a year from now, they can actually come back to you and tell you between 1 and 4 p.m., here's how many people actually used it on Wednesday night between 4 and 7 p.m. But you don't have that right now because in the evening hours, you don't have full-time staff, and you don't have any assurance that when someone signs in, they're not being logged in until the next morning. So you really have no accurate idea if you're not there on a day-to-day basis of who's using that facility and during what hours. What this petition asks the Aquatic Center members are asking for is essentially a compromise that was proposed first by Doug Moore's department as option number 3 for the Aquatic Center. On top of the proposal that he made before you today, here's what it builds back in. It builds back in 34 weeks of Wednesday evening access for the 3 hours. According to his own budget estimates, we're talking a total cost for that for the year of about $12,000. It adds back in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday access for an hour and a half in the evenings after swim team practice during the 12-week long swim season. $8,000. That's a $20,000 difference when you're being asked to cut a $400,000 budget by 70%. And the point of that budget and the question of Gerard Park, maybe Gerard Park came up in December, but look at the own proposal that he put in front of you. Gerard Park is not where the majority of the money from the cuts of the Aquatic Center goes. It goes to expand the Parks and Recreation staff in the coordinator position. And that may be a great idea, but it should be one that's fully developed, given budget justification, explained in full, and not rushed through as part of this. We have to save Gerard Park because things got messed up there. In terms of summer access, I'm also going to tell you, because I ran the data, I swim in the cold weather. I'm going to get in the pool no matter what, right? I'm probably not your typical morning user, though. It is cold at the beginning of June in the summer, and it's simple physics. Water doesn't warm up as fast as the air does. 55 or 60 degree mornings in June are not going to be well utilized. So I appreciate the evening access hour, but I'd ask you to consider, does it make sense to start June 1st, or can you roll it back to June 15th, especially if the Aquatic Center, or especially if the plunge is going to be open until August 15th, right? If you're just thinking for 2 months, can you roll it to later in the year when it's a little bit warmer and it's a little more reasonable for people to be using it rather than starting on June 1st? I think that's a pretty moderate suggestion in terms of what Aquatic Center users are willing to compromise on. And I'll tell you, everyone who signed it says we support the new fees, with one tiny exception. And it goes back to this thing that you said you want families, you said you care about families. If you adopt the proposal just as it is today, a family, whether it's a 2-parent family or a 1-parent family with 5 little kids, would go from $200 a year access cost for the Aquatic Center membership to $600. You're going to triple their price. Now, the vast majority of those 6-person memberships are not families. They're individual adult users who got a great discount. And as individual adult users, we've come together and said we are fine with paying that increase. But create a family pass within this option that increases the cost on a similar level to what the individual cost was increased, which is 13%. It leaves you around $250, where a family, whether it's grandma, single mom, and 4 little kids, single mom, 5 little kids, I don't care, but up to 2 adults who share a single address household and 4 minor children who live with them can still access a public pool at a reasonable rate that they can afford. If you don't do those things, what you have is an aquatic center that for 5 months a year is basically completely inaccessible to anyone with school-age children or anyone who works a 9-to-5 job. During the 12-week-long swim season, you'd have no access in the evening hours. And during the summer, anyone who works daytime hours would only have the 7 to 8 p.m. access. So that's helpful. It does add some back in. But I think for the $20,000 price tag, please make that amendment. Please add back in Wednesday nights so you at least have data a year from now and you can say, okay, Wednesday nights aren't utilized. And then they can come back and say, all right, we'll cut Wednesday nights out because it doesn't make sense from a budget perspective. But you don't have that data today, and there's no good reason that for that extra small price tag, you can't add back in to the proposal they've made Wednesday night access along the lines of the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday access, and access for an hour and a half a night for families and working people during the 12-week swim season. And then in a year, demand to know how the numbers are. And if it doesn't justify the budget, it doesn't justify the budget. But cutting it 70% today, almost $300,000 in cuts when we're asking you to save $20,000 and it's got 100 members support. Seems like a pretty easy amendment to make to the proposal that we've made. The only final thing I would say, and this is not on behalf of those 100 users, let me be clear. It was brought up to me as a question, and so I will put it out there. The City of Columbus sales tax initiative that passed in May of 2016, I believe, funds the Aquatic Center operations, according to the city finance officer. That funding is for street improvement projects and operating costs of the Aquatic Center facilities. And so I'm not sure how reprogramming that money directly to Parks and Recs conforms with the requirements of your annual city budget. It's a question for your city attorney.
To answer that specific question, it funds aquatic expenses.
The language of the statute, aquatic operating costs of the city's aquatic facilities in an amount as shall be set out in the city's annual budget is
aquatic expenses, which includes the plunge and the aquatic center.
Right,
Those
but
funds,
not the Parks and Recreations Coordinator Department, correct?
No, but it also needs to fund the plunge. So we're just saying that there needs to be funding available to take care of the amenities.
Understood, but my understanding is that the operating budget for the Aquatic Center that current city support comes from, unless I misunderstood the response I received from your finance director, comes from that sales tax revenue.
It does, but I think what the mayor's trying to say is those park and rec coordinator increases, about half of those are going to be still aquatics expenses. So the sales tax can still be used on them. And all the increases to the seasonal staff, the lifeguards and everything, that can still be used on that because it's still aquatics.
They're aquatic, but not for like a parks staff member who's mowing the grass somewhere else, or for the other parks and rec coordinator who won't be focused on aquatics. I mean,
most
those
of
are
these
two of the,
increases
that's
are
$70,000
still
or
in
$80,000. Well, according to your memo that you sent to the Parks Board, and when you explained it to the Parks Board, the one additional Parks and Recs coordinator under the option 3
is 75% aquatics.
The memo that you sent to the Parks and Recreation Board, where there was going to be an additional additional staff member was a $70,595 for an additional P&R coordinator with the Aquatic Center director, not to be that person, to be still at the Aquatic Center. So please, though, at the very least, I'm not sure on the legalities of it. The question was posed to me, and so I think it merits your attention and your information to ask, is this actually permissible? But at the very least, please listen to us. We're talking one extra night, an hour and a half in the winter when the swim team's practicing. It gives you access to families and working people, and I think it has broad support from Aquatic Center users who don't love it. Don't get me wrong. It's a compromise still, but it's a compromise that costs very little for this city.
Ma'am? I missed your last name, I'm sorry.
Masilko.
Masilko, okay. This was discussed at the park board meeting? You presented all of these?
No,
items?
because we were not given the so let me thank you for that, because I think it's important, and quite frankly, it's the only reason I got involved. The 8 to 1 hours work for me as an individual, right? But it's not about me. It's about this community and what works for most people. The first park board meeting at which the only proposal was 8 to 1, there was public comment. The second parks board meeting, I actually stood up, asked why public comment wasn't being allowed, and they just went on with voting. There was zero public input allowed as to the option 3. So we had to get together as Aquatic Center users and talk, and we did this week, and we've got 100 people supporting it. And that's only because that's the 100 who I could get in touch with to sign the petition. I think you'd have more broad support from other Aquatic Center members for that expanded access. And again, we're willing to pay the increased fee. The number of families who I'm asking you to include in a family pass is probably less than 20 by the staff's own estimate, right? The number of people who are actually families who would benefit from that, but it's an important benefit if you're a family who uses the Aquatic Center and can't afford a membership at the YMCA. So yeah, we weren't able to comment because the Parks Board didn't take public comment at its second meeting, and there was no request for public input when the Parks Board put this before you here today.
Ms. Soko,
Yeah.
question. I appreciate everything you've said. It's very enlightening. I just want to clarify, what you're asking on behalf of everybody tonight is just to add Wednesday evening into the mix?
Wednesday evening, and then right now, the proposal you have from the Parks Board, because during swim season, the swim team has exclusive use from 4 to 6, right? The option 3 that the public wasn't allowed to comment on at that meeting builds back in 6 to 7:30 p.m. access during that swim season. So I'd say please add that back in so you have at least an hour and a half when families, and I don't know what the utilization is going to be, but an hour and a half for families and working people to be able to use that during the evening swim. And like I said, I use the Parks Department's own numbers of a $355, or sorry, let me make sure I give you the right actual number because I had to work on it quick this afternoon. But I think the total cost that I figured for the 12 weeks of wintertime swim access after swim team is $8,000, and Wednesday access over the 34 weeks would be $12,000. And again, I use their own number to calculate it because up until then, the only thing that was in the proposals before the Parks Board were large numbers, $400,000, $100,000, and trying to get that granularity of what does it cost to keep it open on 3 hours in an evening. The memo was the first time the public had any information about what that would be.
Thank you very much.
So please amend the proposal. It's minimal what we're asking for. Consider delaying the start of the Pawnee Plunge transfer to June 15th to give it a little more time to warm up. I think you'd find that your reaction from your city would be quite different.
All right. Comments? Do we have anybody else that has anything different to add? If not, we have any comments left from the council?
I was just gonna, Doug, can you refresh our memories and review for us the reason for completely closing? You had said at one time that there was a need for, during June and July when the plunge was open, that there's maintenance needs that are done during the summer with the Aquatic Center?
No, the suggestion we've always closed for a month in the summer. That's the maintenance part where we drain the pool and do all that. We would still do that, but now you're adding another month so that we're just using one facility instead of using two facilities.
Okay.
So that's what the logic behind doing
Okay.
that.
Yep. I just need a refresher on that.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend this motion. I'd like to amend it so that we can keep Wednesdays open. Also change the houring from on the when the swim team is there for at least an hour and a half, and open 15th of June.
Technically, how does the person who made the motion have to do that? Or?
So yeah, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. So if that person wants to make that amendment, I don't remember who made the motion.
Charlie.
Charlie did.
So Charlie wants.
Seconded by Beth, I believe.
So if Charlie wants to amend that motion and Beth wants to amend that second, they could do so. If not, then either motions will have to be withdrawn or voted on, and then another motion made.
Let's amend that motion to say that we're gonna be open Wednesday nights and an hour and a half after the swim team. Is that correct? We lost earlier. There she is.
And then the only other part I heard
Then
from Mr.
15th of June.
delay the transfer to the plunge until June 15th.
And delay the transfer of the plunge.
Do we have,
We may need a motion
well,
on,
Beth would need to.
I can change my second.
Change your second on that.
now do we need a motion on Ron's?
Well, no,
That
so,
is the motion.
so what we have in front of us would,
Oh, okay.
so everybody's clear, what we'd have in front of us would be the hybrid package that was put together of number 2, adding in Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays from 4 to 7. It's changed from my paper, so I gotta think here, come on. From 4 to 7, and then open Saturdays from 12 to 4. We would add in Wednesday evenings from the 4 to 7. We would add a time slot for after swim team practice.
Yes.
And the closure would be the 15th of June to the 15th or 14th. The 15th of June to whenever the plunge closes, which is gonna be somewhere in that time frame. Is that correct?
I think we also need to take a look at what the fees, some of the fees that we were discussing.
And she was gonna.
We don't need to do
Family
that with this
membership.
motion,
was
with
gonna look
this.
We can do that during the
item, though.
budget.
Yeah.
We can, I will make sure that that happens during budget.
This, because anything we do here will not go into effect until plunge
Budget, yeah.
plunge time, and fee-wise, nothing happens to a New Year's budget, which is October 1. So we've got time to address the physical therapy question, we've got time to address these questions and be comfortable with it. I think, okay, is everybody comfortable with what has been seconded and brought forth and amended to? We have amendments to the amendments?
Yes.
Okay? So, all right, we have a motion and a sec. Janelle, are you comfortable with it?
Not ready yet, just let me type it in here. I just would like to make one comment while Janelle is retyping over there. And I just want to thank the citizens for all of their input. And this is so valuable to us. There's a lot of times we make decisions and nobody says anything and we vote on it and then people come back and complain, why did you do this? Why did you do this? And so I'm always grateful to get the emails, the phone calls, the text messages. I think the other council members are too, because we want to make the decisions that our community is going to benefit from. But if we don't get feedback from you, we just go on what we presume. And so it's always good whenever anything comes up that citizens contact their council members, they contact the mayor, they contact Tara, because we do want to be able to serve you and serve our community well. So we need your feedback all the time on everything, and we're just very grateful for everybody who spoke tonight, for everyone who sent an email, who called. We value that, and so we want to thank you for doing that. Did that give you enough time, Janelle?
It did, thank you.
All right.
We do value it even more when you do sign your name, because
Yes.
a lot of times we'll get an anonymous, and, what's an anonymous? And it really means something when Barbara signed her name, and a few of you sent me emails, and that carries a lot of it means a lot more. And as you sat through this wonderful meeting prior, you saw that a lot of our hearings, like the mayor said, nobody showed up, and you guys showed up, and I'm just happy that you came out. I just wish this process would have been a little bit different.
I'd be interested in a show of hands from the public here. How many of you are supportive of the amended motion? How many of you are not supportive of the amended motion?
Good to know.
Thank you very much.
And we will be the first to say we can't please everybody.
That's right.
We know that, you know, and I think with that.
Oh, I was going to add one more point. If I could really quick to add one more point. I know there's this perception that we just walk in and we make decisions just like that, but just for public knowledge, there was discussion, and our mayor and our city administrator were open with our park board people and our council people and a lot of other people before this ever hit anything to start brainstorming ideas. And so sometimes, and then the things get said out of context outside of meetings that shouldn't be repeated, and it stirs up wildfires. And I mean, we had some discussions, and then 2 days later I had someone saying, why is the Aquatic Center being closed? And I was like, what? Because that was never, ever once one of our options. And yet the number of people that were asking that. And so, so for your benefit to know, discussions are taking place long before they get thrown out to come up for a vote. If you hear those things and you have questions, call and ask, because we were all floored when we heard that was a rumor being spoken of, that we were closing it. That was never a discussion.
Yeah,
So-
two points that never came into the discussion was closure or affecting the Columbus swim team. Because those were never even part of any of the discussions, but as Beth pointed out, that became part of the narrative that was,
Being
floating
spread.
out there. So I think it's been a good discussion, it's been good back and forth. Obviously, usage drives the amenities. So, usage, it's all up to getting people involved and people active in using it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I
sir.
just had one short comment. I just want to say thank you for coming tonight. Your presence makes a big difference in how we vote. So I thank you again.
Always.
A much more passionate audience than most.
Janelle, I have this electric voting coming up twice.
Point.
That's a
The
good
second
one.
one, how do I get the first one? Yeah. Oh, can you refresh it?
Both of mine said the same thing.
I voted on the first one, or the one that you, the second one, but this one is still showing up. How do I get that off?
See, they don't know how to vote. I don't get to vote, so it's not a big deal. I don't.
That's the old one, yeah. It was still up.
Original motion is showing currently.
Right, and well,
We don't have the new
The new
motion.
motion, the amended one that we voted on was up also, and I voted yes on that one, but this one is also up, and I don't know how to
Can
get-
you just close it?
Can I
Close
just
it and do-
abstain?
Well, close it and do a
Yeah, I voted on the first one too.
Wait. Yeah, there's nothing on here to close it.
Haven't either, but
it's
it's
still
the
in
only
order.
motion.
Okay, well, what if I just,
do we just do a voice vote?
I don't know, I'll just click yay.
I
I clicked yay. I clicked yes. Oh, and it pops up again.
I don't think that one's gonna show.
Well, see, it just popped up again.
Well, it should when I
Yeah,
close this.
same here.
Let's go.
Do you think we're ready, Janelle?
I think so.
We will vote and take a look quickly to see if it is, and if, all right.
See what happens.
Old motion, we have.
But it should refresh itself.
Now it came up again.
Oh, maybe we just need to refresh.
We can cancel if it comes up wrong. We will,
Yeah, we'll correct
We'll
it.
correct
Just
it.
go ahead and vote how you would on this motion.
the one that's on this screen, which is amended right there, yeah.
Try that.
Oh, now it came
Okay,
up.
here's the new one. Got it. You know what? I hit this
Has everybody
refresh.
voted?
No, mine's
Do
still
I
the
need,
old
do we
one.
need to vote on the original and the
Refresh
second?
our,
It keeps coming
gentlemen,
up.
I think if you refresh your screen up by the little house, they have that little circle there. If you click on that and refresh your
on the prairie.
screen, the new motion comes up and the other one disappears. I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
This
Click,
one?
that'll refresh your screen.
Yeah, there it is.
Just don't push the X, just let it go.
Mine didn't count.
And what's gonna happen, there.
Okay.
Now the new motion may come up. There, that's the new one.
The new one.
Go down
New
and
one's
vote
up
on
now.
They,
We good? You good?
Did you guys get it?
when it was
Found it.
$240
Voting ain't coming up here though.
Now you have to scroll down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Now, where's mine?
at the one there by
Did you guys get it, Roth? Yeah.
Okay, now we
There
can
you go,
vote.
vote yea.
No.
Just for regular. See, it's what
Okay.
Got it.
Think we're
We're
ready?
good. We're good
All right,
over
we
here.
believe we're ready. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Let's see what we got here. Plat probably blow up.
manually close it. Okay.
Here it comes.
Oh, it came up. There you go.
There we go. Motion passes. Minute, if you all want to, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Oh, why is everybody laughing? Okay. We'll take a moment to let you all get out, and we'll just take a second here and let them. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Lynn.
I work for Tim, so thank you. Thank you.
Your son.
No, not Tim Madison. Oh, yeah. I'm Tim's deputy.
Thank you very much. Please get a hold of me.
I will.
Have Tim, Tim
7-0. Okay.
And I'm sorry.
the other day about Santa Claus.
Don't want to overwork the lifeguard.
Hello, Virginia. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Said, come swim with us, and I said, I don't want to overwork the lifeguard.
My sister-in-law from the lake, can I call her?
Oh, I,
Was that back in the Dear Dead Dark?
surprising you have the model lifeguards.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for saying that. And you're with? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Okay.
She said it is accurate.
Okay, I mean, I think, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, we are ready to move on to 13B under new business.
Application of an American Heart Association Incorporated for special designated liquor license at 265 33rd Avenue from 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. May 5th, 2022 for fundraising, luncheon, and wine pull.
Mine is locked.
Can we bring that forward to about 8:30?
Yeah.
It's in a couple weeks. It's in 2 weeks. And I don't know, do I need to kind of share what it is, or I was just told that.
Why don't
you're
we
here to
get a
answer
motion
questions.
on the floor to accept, and then we'll let you take a moment.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the application of American Heart Association for a special designated liquor license be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, please.
Yeah, so May 5th, we have our annual Columbus Go Red for Women.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Who are you?
Yes, I'm Chris Shives. I'm the executive director for the American Heart Association Nebraska. My address is 2810 Lee Lane in Papillion, Nebraska. But we have our annual Columbus Go Red Expo on May 5th. So it's an annual event where we empower and bring awareness around cardiovascular disease to women and their number one health threat. So we have about 300 local residents that will be attending the event, including our presenting sponsor, Columbus Community Hospital, and about 30 other sponsors. So as a part of the event, we do a wine pull where attendees will make a donation where they could take a bottle of wine. So that's why we're seeking that special liquor license, is for those attendees to be able to make a donation, in return getting a bottle of wine as our thank you, and that they would take that home, not uncork it at the event, but take that with them to use at a different time. So
Nice.
Well, sounds great. Any other questions? If not, well, we wish you the best of luck.
thank you very much.
Here's the spelling of your last name.
It's SHIVES,
V or
as
V?
in Victor. Yep.
V-E-S. Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay.
That was the first one. Mine says electronic voting in process.
Close it.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 13C, quote from Danco Emergency Equipment in the amount of $25,650 to replace expired or damaged turnout gear for the fire department.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the quote from Danco Emergency Equipment be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the quote from Danco Emergency Equipment. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay.
Did we blow it up? There you go.
Motion passes.
Item 13D, quote from Stryker Medical in the amount of $16,588.82 for chest compression system for the fire department. I might need it if you wax the table any harder.
The quote from Stryker Medical for chest compression system be accepted.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to help the city administrator get back in, to approve the Stryker Medical equipment. Any discussion?
I just want to ask, Chief, do you know if there's going to be any more grants coming forward, such as the Helmsley grant that supplied a lot of these
Did I vote no on the last one?
in the past?
Is I don't know an acceptable answer?
Sorry?
Is I don't know an acceptable answer? I'm not sure. I know this was specifically budgeted in last year.
You need to recognize yourself.
My name is Ryan Gray. I'm the chief of the Columbus Fire Department, and I reside at 2418 32nd Street. So this was a budgeted item in last year's budget. We're just trying to get through capital purchases. I haven't had any discussions with anyone internal to the department as far as grant funding. I know we're looking at some grant funding for some fire stuff for the next budget year, but I haven't heard of anything. Maybe that's something we'll discuss.
I just understand in the past, there was a large Helmsley grant that supplied numerous of these throughout the state.
I will.
And I was just curious if I'm sure it's expired, but I was just curious if
I
there
will
was
look
another
into
one
that
maybe coming forward.
because I know we've talked about trying to get another one next year as well. So that's a viable option. I'll find out, and I will be able to report that back to you.
Thanks.
All right.
This is just one?
This is just one.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine.
Says electronic voting in process.
There it goes.
Motion passes.
Item 13E, sole source quote from Sirius Computer Solutions LLC in the amount of $271,369.45 for networking hardware and implementation services for the community building.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the quote from Sirius Computer Solutions LLC for networking hardware and implementation services be accepted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the quote from Cirrus Computer Solutions for networking hardware and implementation services for the community building. Would you, Tara, would you explain why this is a sole source? We had a citizen ask this today. A great question.
So this one and the next two purchases are all sole source because existing networking and security is all with Sirius at all of our other locations and existing locations. So we need to add and upgrade, integrate into that system. We can't have separate systems in all of our departments and divisions. So that's why it's sole source.
And then is this part of the package price within the community center?
This is part of the budgeted capital expense.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Are we within budget?
It's part of the FF&E, part of the total package. It's still within budget, yes.
The total package or this item within budget?
Well, there's lots of items in the total package,
I
and this
understand
one is
that,
part
but
of it,
there
and
was-
it's with
there
it.
was-
Can I finish? Can I answer the question?
That line
Brent?
item, that's what I want to know too. That's exactly.
In the line item, there's a budget for IT, and this is within the budget. All three of these are.
The total of all three of these
Yes.
items are within the line item budget
Yes.
amount at this point?
Yes.
Do we have any additional items to add to that?
Yes.
Are we going to be within budget at the bottom line?
We hope so, but I'll be honest with you, the supply chain and the price hikes we're seeing on a daily basis are exorbitant. So we are doing our very best to keep it within budget. And if it ever becomes out of budget, you will get advance notice and we'll have lots of discussions about that. But we're prioritizing and purchasing within the budget at this time. Some of these things are 12-month lead time.
Understand. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 13F, sole source quote from Sirius Computer Solutions LLC in the amount of $107,433.96 for replacement servers and migration services.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the quote from Sirius Computer Solutions LLC for replacement servers, am I on the right one?
Yep.
And migration services be accepted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this quote. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 13G, sole source quote from Sirius Computer Solutions LLC in the amount of $18,931.60 for cloud storage and implementation services.
Mr. Mayor, I move the quote from Sirius Computer Solutions LLC for cloud storage service and implementation services be accepted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this quote.
We have,
Any discussion? Yes, sir.
do we have cloud service now?
Yes, but we need more. We don't have any cloud service right now? Heather's saying no, we don't have any cloud service right now.
I was wondering.
Hello, I'm Heather Lindsley, the finance director, and no, we currently do not. We are backing up on tape at the moment. So part of the importance of this is all of that equipment is outdated, and so to move on with times, to eliminate that if we get hit by a tornado, fire, or anything like that, it's in the cloud and it's secured. So that's why we're choosing to go with that option. I would like to add, on the previous bids with Sirius, we were informed May 1st, prices are going up 8%. So, in addition to the 12-month lead time. So that's why we are bringing forth what we can get to get on time. So,
Thank you.
any other questions?
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 13H, plan specifications estimate of cost in the amount of $4,363,218 and authorization to advertise for bids for the Lost Creek Parkway sewer extension from 10th Avenue to 63rd Avenue. The plans and specifications are on file in the engineering department.
Mr. Mayor, I move the plan specifications, estimate of cost, and authorization to advertise for bids for Lost Creek Parkway sewer extension be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the plan specifications and estimate of cost for the Lost Creek Parkway sewer extension from 10th Avenue to 63rd Avenue. Any discussion?
It only goes to 63rd. It doesn't go down 63rd, right?
Correct.
We have dewatering in that?
Oh, I bet there will be. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay.
Sorry, Rick. You just had to bring that up, didn't you?
Motion passes.
Item 13I, comments from the mayor and city council members in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. No discussion may be held on this item.
Do we have any comments from council members this evening? I have nothing this evening other than wishing our councilman, Mr. Lohr, well, as he is traveling in Poland right now. So we wish him safe travels.
Definitely.
All right, we move on to resolutions.
Item 14A, resolution number R22-46, accepting the proposal from American Legal Publishing for recodification of the Columbus City Code at a base cost of $11,795.
Mr. Mayor, I move resolution number R22-46 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution R2246. Any discussion?
What will this do for us?
Janelle, do you want to go over this?
We've been working on this actually for a few years, and with change of department heads and different circumstances, it's going to completely clean up the code. We've had different title changes and different things, so it's going to completely update the code.
Hopefully make it more user-friendly.
More user-friendly.
Will it be hard copy or digital?
Digital. We're going to go more digital. We'll have some hard copies. I mean, we're required to give the county attorney a hard copy, and the city attorney will get a hard copy, but otherwise we're going to go digital.
So I won't be getting any notes from Robin to print my
Right,
ordinance and make
right.
sure I put it in my book.
On the last one, because we had started out with 50 books, and I don't think we're only down to, I don't even know if we have 20 right now, because they didn't get updated properly, so we just had to toss them, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 14B, resolution number R22-47, terminating the Highway 3064 Connector Interlocal Agreement and disbanding the 3064 Corridor Steering Committee.
Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution R2247 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution R22-47. Discussion.
As I mentioned earlier, I was going to reserve my comments for this portion of the meeting. As I testified in the hearing, I'm the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and I've been on the committee for the last 12 years, probably chaired it the last 5 or 6. This item has 3064 Connector has been on that agenda every month, and when we formulated this task force, or whatever you want to call it, we kept asking for reports, what's going on, how's things going, and we kind of got little yes, no, maybes, and then all of a sudden we have a meeting, and now they're wanting to disband. I felt pretty disheartened of all the work that had went into it. We had created what we thought was an alliance with Butler, Colfax, Polk, and Platte County and the city of Columbus, and I thought we were making some headway, but I think people got disenchanted because we weren't doing anything. And so I think to disband at this point would be not the right thing to do. I know there's another direction we probably need to go into. I just, somebody said that, or I think Dawson from the chamber said he had notes that this project went back as far as 2005. They requested Tom Osborne to get some federal funding for it. And I think it came to to everybody's attention that we really needed it when the flooding happened, but there's no guarantee that this bridge would not have the same problems. But back a while ago, or I don't know how far back, when the ADM railroad track bridge came in, is my understanding the city had an option to be a part of that and chose not to be. So I guess if we keep saying no to this project, I guess in the future I wouldn't like people say, well, you could have done something 10 years ago. We could have had this thing resolved and we could have moved it on. That being said, I know the NDOT doesn't really want it to do anything with this project, but in reality, the NDT probably wouldn't want to do anything with Highway 30 if they based everything on a number count. That project only got moved forward because Deb Fisher's funding came forward, and we allocated money to that project. So I don't take a whole lot of credence in what numbers say, but I think the city would be the biggest benefactor of that project going forward, and the Platte County would be the second one. But I think with the finishing up of Highway 30 and possibly having this connector, I think it'd be an opportunity that we should do. We should at least consider, and I think disbanding it sends a negative connotation that we've kind of given up, and I don't think we ever want to do that.
But I think the recommendation was to follow the recommendation of the committee itself, you know.
Well, how about the county supervisors? They voted not to disband.
Okay, I mean, they did.
Yeah, so
They
I mean,
voted to table it.
Yeah, so I don't know why we're in a position where we should say one thing and they say another.
Well, I think at this point, the role of that committee was to do the traffic study, to find out what it found out, to work with the adjoining counties, and those adjoining counties are not working with us anymore. I mean, if it was put together to work with Butler, Colfax, and Polk.
Yeah, and my comment was that we were doing nothing. And
Well,
people
I wasn't on the committee,
Well, I'm
Rich.
just telling you, Jim. Yeah, I was. And we heard nothing. We heard nothing. We heard nothing from anybody.
Nothing from,
The committee, the steering committee.
okay.
That they met maybe once or twice. Where are we going? You know, we had a study done. We waited for a report. We got no report. Then the next thing we know, we're disbanded.
So at their meeting, they reviewed their report, I'm assuming, and decided, well, one of the counties wasn't there and hadn't been at the last couple of meetings. And Polk and Colfax and Platte voted, those committee members voted, along with our committee members, to disband. And, you
Well,
know,
I'm just telling you what I think as the transportation chairman, what I would like to see done. And I think the county supervisor's vote indicates that they want to at least hang on to it. And I think we should also give it that consideration here as well.
Just pure technicalities. The interlocal agreement was created among those entities to perform the traffic study, and it says that if anything beyond the traffic study is wanted by any of the parties, another agreement would have to be made. But since others have already backed out, we've had conversations that we should probably terminate this, and when the next step is determined, we would get a new agreement going, because this one would have to be amended to do anything else, according to how it's written.
That's not what this says. It just says we're disbanding.
This interlocal committee.
I know,
It doesn't
but
say
It doesn't
nothing.
say that we go back and look at it.
No, it doesn't, because it's about the resolution that was previously approved. Now, I'm just saying, as a technicality, the interlocal itself says if anything else is to happen, there's to be an amendment or a new agreement. So the purpose of the interlocal has been fulfilled. That's my only comment.
I guess, Rich, why would we not want to disband it? Why do we want to keep the committee if they're not doing anything?
Well, I think the group, the core needs to stay together. And we just need to keep focusing on this project, however it's going to be. If it comes up with another agreement or another avenue, if we make this a private-public entity, like the mayor suggested the other day, that what happened over in Fremont, where the people came together to build that 4-lane. I mean, that's where we're at. But if we keep dropping the ball on this thing, people are going to say, well, nobody cares. And if the county representatives say we don't care, we can't get anything done, I just, in my opinion, which is only my opinion, I just feel it's a shot at never hearing from it again.
Well said, Rich.
Any other discussion? All right,
What's the dollar amount that we have?
That we have
Pretty
spent?
minimum.
That we spent on the original interlocal. We had allocated 15, but we didn't spend all 15,000.
Again, keep in mind, the point this was brought forward for was because it's of our belief and legally that we fulfilled what the interlocal was put together for. So I'm not disagreeing at all that we couldn't continue discussions and workings, but under a different umbrella. This umbrella is done. And that was the point of bringing it forward, was to honor the request of the committee and legal's opinion that, you know, it had done what it had done. You know, I mean, the county tabled it. They didn't, you know, they didn't go one way or the other, they tabled. And, you know, if they want to bring something back to us, because I disagree with you. I think this is more of a Platte, Butler, Colfax benefit than the city of Columbus. But, you know, I mean, that.
And maybe that should be the next step.
Yeah, maybe an economic,
impact
you know, maybe
study.
a different kind of study to get some emphasis and excitement about it. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion fails. Motion fails. All right.
Item 14C, resolution number R22-48, approving the contract with BD Construction Incorporated in the amount of $1,802,494 for Station Number 2, Charlie Lewis Fire Station Addition Project.
Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution number R22-48 be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 22-48 for the Charlie Lewis Fire Station addition. Any discussion?
For purposes of the public, what was the engineer's estimate for this project?
$1,813,000.
Or do we have, what was the total budget for this item?
It's in the memo. I'll open it here. We have in the budget $1,576,350. It is over the CIP, but it won't all get done this year, so we will budget what doesn't get done this year into next year.
So the engineer's estimate was 1.8 million, give or take. The bid came back at 1.8 million, give or take. The amount budgeted was 1.5 million. So we're gonna have to come up with another 300K next year.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none.
I guess maybe just to clarify, a lot of it is inflation. I mean,
Oh, I understand. I understand. Yeah,
Prices are
10% a year.
ridiculous.
Or 8 or 6 or 12 or whatever it is.
I deal with it daily.
All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 14D, resolution number R22-49, approving the contract with Cook Excavating Company in the amount of $96,223.89 for lake restoration at Quail Run Golf Course.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of resolution number R22-49.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number R22-49. Any discussion?
Is this still under the FEMA dollars?
Yes, it was approved as a scope change.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
How long are we gonna have to close the course to do this work?
Well, the work will either be done before the summer season or after the summer season. So because we have to use the irrigation system to keep the rest of the turf alive, and the irrigation can't run while this work is going on. So it shouldn't impact play that much. It may impact play a little bit, but not that much. We're not gonna have to close the south side or the course overall to do this work.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 14E, resolution number R22-50, approving the contract with Midwest Coatings Company Incorporated in the amount of $78,202.80 for the 2022 armor coating surfacing improvements.
Mr. Mayor, I move resolution number R22-50 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R22-50. Any discussion?
Rick, would you say what areas are gonna be refinished?
So it's 3 different parking lots. It's the Pawnee Park Legion baseball field, the Pawnee Park football field, and the Bradshaw Park parking lot.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Item 14F, resolution number R22-51, approving the contract with Midlands Contracting Incorporated doing business as Johnson Service Company in the amount of $162,776.65 for the 2022 sanitary sewer rehabilitation.
Mr. Mayor, move for the adoption of resolution number R22-51.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution number 22-51. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Item 14G, resolution number R22-52, approving the contract with Bauer Underground Incorporated in the amount of $409,886.89 for the South Fiber Ring and the Community Building Relocation Project.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of the resolution number R22-52.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R22-52. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Got it.
Got it? Okay.
Motion passes.
Item 14H, resolution number R22-53, approving the agreement with Capital City Electric Incorporated in the amount of $29,500 for design phase services for the baseball field lighting upgrades at Pawnee Park.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of resolution number R22-53.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve R22-53. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Item 14I, resolution number R22-54, approving the agreement between owner and engineer for professional services with JEO Consulting Group Incorporated for an hourly not to exceed amount of $10,000 for design and bidding services for the pipe penetration inspection for 2022 Loop River Levee Pipe Inspection Coordination Project.
Somebody's got it.
Mr. Schilling. Ron.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be here in a minute. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of resolution number R22-54.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve R22-54. Any discussion?
It's amazing that when I first came on the council 12 years ago, the levee was the major project, and we're still nickel
Still
and
messing
diming
with it,
us.
yeah.
Still nickel and diming us.
And will continue to be so.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Item 14J, resolution number R22-55, approving the subordination agreement and deed of trust subordination agreement with Bremer Bank National Association regarding economic development loan to Columbus Hydraulics Company, LLC.
Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution number R22-55 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number R22-55. Any discussion?
In simplified terms, what does this do and how does it affect us and our position?
Columbus Hydraulics is refinancing, and it does not affect our position. Everything that we had in our previous agreement is in this agreement.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All those, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes. Brings us up to ordinances on the third reading.
Item 17A, ordinance number 22-07, amending section 90.040E of chapter 90 of Title 9 of the Columbus City Code to allow residential properties to have no more than 3 dogs or 4 cats or a total of 6 pets over 4 months of age.
Mr. Mayor, I move ordinance number 22-07 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 22-07. Any discussion? This will just let everybody that wants 6 pets in their house to be able to have them.
Said he wasn't here for this.
That's right. All right, please vote. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay.
I need all the help I can get.
Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.